I went to Seychelles, no, not Seychelles, Mauritius, just this one, 2018, I'm forgetting. Maybe it was May or whatever month it was. Whew. I even said to God, God, I think, am I the problem? Is it the message? What is happening? I am preaching and in front of a pegged wall. Man, you make an appeal for decision, nobody comes forward. Nobody comes forward. And I asked another guy to say, the demography of this audience, what is it like? He says, I know it's about 90% Hindus. And I could tell, I don't think I am reaching these Hindus. I tried. And the best I have ever done in my entire life in terms of baptism, and it's on record, after flying all the way to Mauritius, I baptized 2 people. 2 people. And the church was jiving and jumping and celebrating. And to me, I'm used to 100, 500, 200, and what have you. And I'm feeling sorrowful, and the personal ministries director says, Pastor Ngwaru, this is a great result. I said, I don't know what great means anymore. Please, could I have 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and verse is 20 to 23. We are reading from the NIV. Listen to what it says here. To the Jews, I became like a what? Like a Jew. To do what? To win the Jews. To the Jews, I became like a Jew. To win a Jew. This is written in a Bible. It's not like a church growth book. This is exactly the Holy Scriptures. Our fathers of evangelism had to be Jews to win a Jew. And then they said to those under the law, I became like one under the law. And see in parenthesis there, though I myself am not under the law. Though I myself am not under the law, but to them I had to be like one under the law. To do what? So as to win those under the law. Today you may have scholars. I mean, my friend was quoting scholars upon scholar. This doctor says this, and this other doctor says this. And all those principles they're talking about, God had already established them in the Scriptures. And then, of course, from there, where did it go? Yeah, to the weak. I became weak to win the weak. And I think this is where an Adventist has a problem. This is where an Adventist is. Maybe in my own understanding, I haven't done exegesis of this, and possibly when you're talking of, maybe when Paul was talking of the weak, today, don't you have some people whose lifestyles reflect sin, and how sin has had dominion over people? It was, I think, was it 2005, and I'm in California. And I meet Michael Mfawa, a close friend of mine. So Benjamin, where I was staying, says, do you want to go and see Mike? And I said, no, Mike is my connection. Let's go and see Mike. We go to where Mike says, let us meet. And what do I see? Mike is in some jogging gear, and is in some jeans, and his hair did not look like the pastor's hair. And the guys around him, it was very difficult to identify who Mike was in the crowd. But because he knew me, he could identify me, he pulled out and said, hi Mike, how is Africa? I said, Africa is great. And I'm saying, but Mike, man, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then he says, Mike, did you see that the moment you came, my guys kind of yanked together? Because they don't know this man in a suit. Who is this man in a suit? Who is different from us? And then Mike told me something. It could be wrong. Maybe he's totally wrong. Let's admit maybe he's totally wrong. But this is what he says. Mike says to me, I'm Mike and this Mike. So Mike says to Mike, if you want to win conventional people, this is not your market. This is, you will not bring your suit here and your white shirt here and your red tie and you think you can reach these guys. This is not your market. I am like this intentionally because I have a ministry. I'm working with people who are challenged with the drugs and whatever. They wear like this. They comb their hair like this. They keep themselves like this. And these are the people I am reaching. I don't know whether that idea is Adventist. Because we are very sensitive. Anything that seems like it's a departure from a necktie, a departure from a jacket, and sometimes to have a meeting. There was a time in Swaziland. Let me depart from Michael Mfawa and go to Gideon Reinek, the executive secretary. He comes to Swaziland, and I'm personal ministries director there. And he packaged his ministry to reach people that are totally different from convention. Totally different atheists, people who don't believe in God, people who don't believe in religion. And he packaged this thing like he's a scientist who is coming to reveal some kind of things and what have you. The whole was jam-packed. And I'm seated there, I'm the personal ministry director, and I've invited Gideon to come and run a crusade in our country. And I'm the personal ministry director, and Gideon goes to the front, introduces himself and whatever, and they get in the topic, there's no hymn, and there is no prayer. An Adventist personal ministries director, I went through half of Queen. I said, this man is coming from the union. There is no prayer. And we did not sing a hymn. And for those guys, they were comfortable with that. They were comfortable with that. Renege prayed alone in the vestry camp and spoke to people who did not want prayer and who did not want to sing a hymn from a hymn book and whatever. At the end of the day, I appreciated why he did that. At the end of the day, we now go to the house of this one, he's sick, and we are able to pray with the family. Now we are able to pray. This guy did not want the prayer there. But in this house, says, I've got cancer here, I need a prayer. And what have you. So this may need to be a convention by itself. For us as Africa, much as we can have a global ministry, but we have a local ministry. What does this message mean? That a Jew must be reached in a Jewish way. And that a man who is in a particular culture, you may need to reflect that culture in order to reach that person. What does it mean? When a person is character challenged and they have a lifestyle, is it possible for Adventists to have a gay ministry? And if we are going to reach those people, because I want to believe they are also candidates of heaven, how are we going to package ourselves to get, that's not for debate today. But I'm sure we need to be looking at some of those. And then listen what he says here. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I may save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share its blessings. What I want to establish here are the principles. Application, we may get into debate, so I don't want to get into that. The Bible is simply saying an African is best reached by methods that reach an African. A Western person who is in England, walking the streets of London, they communicate with the reality in a certain way, and if you miss how they communicate, you may totally not reach them. Have you ever noticed that sometimes I've heard people say, Innovation means you are using technology, you are using websites. That is totally not true. That may not be totally true. You may actually have a website which nobody visits. It's your own website. You developed it and it's yours. You are the only one who gets there and out of it. You may actually be on television. Basically on television, invest millions of US dollars and still discover nobody's watching your television shows. You're only watching them yourself. This afternoon, to deal with the burden that we have, because I want to appreciate one thing. Personal ministries are evangelism technocrats. We are not only preachers. We should be creators of ideas. We should be able to respond to our different markets and understanding how this market responds. So how do I package myself? This one, how does it respond and whatever. So that, Paul says, because of the gospel, I will be adaptive so that I may win some. Theology, our 28 fundamental beliefs are not adaptive. They are constants. Lying is lying. It doesn't matter what culture you go to. Adultery is adultery. It does not matter how you look at things. But how to minister to people in adultery, we may have to be adaptive in our methods. I have Tapiwa Musosi. He's my friend's son, so I call him my son too. He has done movie and filming technology and what have you. The movie that you saw yesterday night or the other night and whatever, he was behind creating it and making sure and directing to make sure that everything comes out right. And we sat down before this book that I wrote here. You'll mention about it. When I was writing this book here, the first script, Tapiwa read it and says, Pastor, is it okay if we can throw it away? Tapiwa, I'm an ordained man of God. I have better theology. You don't even have a theology yourself. How do you tell me to throw away my... So he says, okay, let's throw it away, Pastor. This is how we write. Who are you trying to reach? No, I want to reach high school students. Are you sure that young people don't relate to the subjects you are addressing? The way you have written, that's not how young people speak. Now, let me advise you. So he did chapter 1 says, if you write it like this, Pastor, I want to assure you, you will turn the world around. Tapiwa, take it from there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Like Pastor Michael said, I am not a theologian, and I do not claim to be. But what I do know is a little bit about film, and what I love to do is talk about God. And it's amazing to see things like creative ministry in all Africa, because that means there is an attempt to expand. There's an attempt to be creative and reach as many people as possible. So I really appreciate you for allowing me to speak in this capacity. Now, I come from a practical, interactive type learning situation. So I don't just like talking, I like talking to and being talked to. I'm not a monologue, I like dialogue if you're gonna talk about scripts and films. So before we start, I'd like to ask a question, and the question is, how many of you have told your children to put down their screen? Or you're watching too many movies, just put it down. It's happened, well, I don't have any children, but it's happened to a majority of people. Now, I read somewhere that it says the kids are spending between 4.5 to 6.5 hours a day on the screens. Now, that's a bit over a quarter of the day, and if you include sleeping and talking and eating, you see what big chunk it is. And they're spending it watching what the devil makes. Now, it's funny because I'm coming here to try to talk about film and things, and then I just say it's what the devil makes. Because I cannot begin to deny that he is using that medium. But one of my favorite verses comes from Genesis 50, verse 20. Does anybody know it? Anybody? Genesis 50, verse 20, where Joseph is talking and he's saying, what was meant for evil, God turned it for good. So now you remember. Because though the devil is trying to use us, I believe God could use film and stories in such a powerful way that you'll see souls being saved that you never thought could get saved. Because when Pastor Mike was saying, he came to me and he was like, here's the script and here's the kids. A lot of times we miss kind of what's going on. It's like a different language. We were speaking yesterday and we were saying that it's like we speak a different language. And the kids are speaking film and they're speaking movies. If you go online, there's so many different YouTube, Vimeo, Vines, so many things that it sounds like I'm making up words, but I'm not. There's actual clips and stuff. People are sharing things, but we're not there. Now, whenever a kid goes missing, and the police are called, and the police usually say something like, okay, where does your child usually, where do they usually go? Where do you think they could be? Is there like a friend's place, or is there like a secret hideout space and things like that, right? And then they first check there because chances are the child is going to be there. Now, what more when we know that a majority of the lost souls, we know their location is in the films. What more for us to go there, to check there first and say God loves you through that medium? I got another question, or rhetorical question if you don't want to answer, because it might be a bit tricky. How many of you know stereotypes? Stereotypes, the word stereotypes. Okay, and you know, can I get any ideas or any suggestions of them? I could start, and I know none of us believe this, but I know I've heard some stereotypes like Muslims and terrorism, they go hand in hand. We've heard that. Huh? Okay, and then yes? Dreadlocks and ganja. We've heard that. And we've heard Africa, there's wild animals in our backyards, lions. We've heard that. And there's so many. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Taxi drivers and reckless driving. Now the point of this exercise is, I know that the stereotypes are wrong, and I'm sure we all know that those stereotypes are wrong, but how were they formed? Remember, I like dialogue. Does anyone know? Anyone have an idea? Because, especially with like the Muslim and the terrorist, I know what kind of kicked it into gear was September 11 in America. Then the news got hold of it. And then if you start watching a lot of movies that have to do with terrorism, majority, 90% of them are Muslims. Right? And if you watch a lot of movies in the States or in the Western society where they depict Africa, there's a lot of animals in the backyard, and people are swinging on trees. There's Tarzan, and they're speaking to apes and things like that, right? And that right there kind of shows the power of storytelling, because I've never met a Muslim that's a terrorist. Yet that stereotype has been made and engraved in people. And a lot of people have not even been to Africa, but they assume that the lions and tigers and bears are in the backyard. And I've never seen a lion, fortunately, in my backyard. But this is the power of media, because media and film and stories and things like that, once continued, make you think something before you have thought about thinking it. Can I take that back? It makes you think something before you have even thought about thinking it. I never made a conscious decision to say, okay, what are my viewpoints on Muslims? Yet, the thought process has been made. And these are kind of extreme things, but then once we start breaking it down, we start seeing just how the devil is using it, because now in films, things like promiscuity, that's being put in a positive way. If you're a virgin, you're the loser in the film. I mean, we have films like 40-Year-Old Virgin, and he only becomes the cool guy after he loses his virginity. And then there's also things like violence, there's also like drugs, where you get high, and then you have this trip, and then you come back, and everything is okay, but not showing the permanent effects of drugs. And even worse off, the way they depict God. Because they make him seem like this happy-go-lucky, go-free, okay, do whatever you want, if you come back, I'll be here. Really soft. And if the devil is using media to do that, why can we not say, okay, God, we're gonna use movies to make people think things before they've thought it, but in a positive way? Whereas stereotypes about positive things start emerging, where before even kids are talking and they're like, man, as soon as you mention God, a positive thing comes from it. As soon as you mention abstinence, a positive thing comes from it. Because right now, in as much as we like to shelter the kids, the fact that they have this screen and they know how to operate it means that they have access to everything. So we could really look into reaching more people through storytelling, like the Discovering Your Path. If I may continue, have you guys seen people watch movies and start crying? Okay? Or have you seen something where something is happening in a movie and people feel a certain way? Or even better yet, let's do it this way. You watch a cooking show and you start salivating because you're seeing something really good on the TV. That's happened. It's because God has given us this amazing, empathetic thing where we are vicarious animals, where we live through things, through vision. And with film and with movies, you know when they say experience is the best teacher, why can't the experience be vicariously? Why do they have to actually go through it? So for example, in the film, if you saw the film, there's a girl who nearly gets raped. And I remember there was a time where we played it where a lady was saying her daughter was crying and she really felt for the girl. Now that's someone who has never, hopefully and praying that she has never experienced something like that. But because of having lived vicariously through this character, before a situation like this happens, she already knows, okay, I've seen this story, I've heard this story, I've seen it on TV, I've cried because of someone going through this situation, so let me abstain from it. So that's the power that could happen from creating movies and stories like this. Because on one hand, we have the devil trying really hard, but on another, more powerful hand, we have God who can do ridiculous things. And I'm sorry if I'm being a little informal. I have not had the right training, so maybe my language might be a bit informal. And I might not be using the right words here and there, or my Greek, I would ask my dad about my Greek and Hebrew. But the thing is, despite all that, there is so much that could happen with storytelling. I mean, look at Christ. How many parables he told? And the reason why I believe he would tell stories is because of a beautiful thing called relatability. A lot of times as adults, and I've started experiencing, I didn't think I was that old until we started shooting this film, and then the high school children showed me how old I was, where if you just try to talk to them, they just shut down immediately. But if you just come in a story form, the amount of people who have been part of this saying, hey, when is the links coming up? I need the link so I can share it with my friends. Oh my goodness, there's a story about the girl and the guy. That happened to my friend. I really want her to see this. Because it's now communicating through that language that they speak. And I believe there is so much potential as Africans, as a church, whereas we as Africans, we're storytellers. A lot of from the first things I remember my parents teaching me, the first lessons were through stories. And the funny thing is, those are the ones that stick. So as it becomes I hate saying an assignment because I feel so young, and I can't say it becomes an assignment to you guys because I don't want to give you guys assignments, but it becomes a challenge. Can I say challenge? That's better? Yeah. A challenge that not just overlooking storytelling through motion picture, because the conceptual relevance in it is astounding, and the souls that could be saved are insane. And here's before I finish, I would just like to make sure that you know, like when we try to introduce things like storytelling and films and movies and things like that, it's not about saying that the traditional way is bad. Because my father is a pastor, and I have seen through the traditional ways of ministry souls being saved. But here's the crazy thing. It had nothing to do with my father, because the saving is from the Holy Spirit. So when we say it's new ways, we're not talking about changing the message. We're just talking about changing the delivery, or not even changing the delivery, adding a new delivery. And there was something beautiful that you said yesterday, where you said we don't want the film to be an ends. We don't want the film to end here, because there is the film, yes, but there's also the book, and the book now involves Bible study, involves going deeper into things, into the Bible. And now if we've gotten the attention through the film, it becomes a lot easier for us to say, okay, but now listen to the meat of it now. So when we talk about movies and filmmaking and things like this, it's not about saying any tradition is old or worn out or whatever. It's saying everything is great. Here's extra ammo. And with that, I don't know if there are any questions, or they'll ask later. I think, Pastor, you have something to say?
Are we still moving together? Let me see if this will blow our minds. The pioneers of the church in Africa came from United States of America as missionaries. When they were in America, Battle Creek or whatever place you may want to call it, I'm sure they sat down and said, where is the mission field? And then they identified Africa, they identified India, they identified Australia and other places. They risked their lives going where the work is. Now, let's forget about the pioneers. The work is already in our hands. But the question is, where are the people? This is what Tapua is saying. Where are the people? The people are in brothels. So, the gospel came from America by ship to here. But now we may have to carry it to brothels. I don't know if we are together. We may have to take it to the drug cartels as Africa to intentionally tell ourselves Africa is challenged by drugs. We need missionaries who will have a mission to that people, that group of people. Where are the people? The people are in front of TVs. Let's not deny it. Your children are there, and sometimes our wives are there, and sometimes our very selves. We switch off Hope Channel and watch DSTV. How do we then get there where the people are? So Tapiola is saying, if the people are in front of televisions, we also need to appear on the screen. In that dark world, Tapiola, why did you forget about darkness and the power of light? Can you say it in 2 minutes, please? Do you still remember that? The power of the power that light is over darkness.
Yeah. So it's a concept that I heard where the speaker was saying, light cannot light light. And when Christ says we're the light of the world, we should let our light shine, right? But what good is light? If you take that light on a bright sunny day and you light it outside, it does absolutely nothing. But the only way that it will work is if there's darkness. So we can't expect to make the light shine if all it is just lighting light, because light does not light light. So sometimes we have to go, and I'm not saying let's just go there and be changed and we go and we participate in smoking and drinking and whatever. No. Here's the funny thing about darkness and light. Wherever there's darkness and wherever there's light, darkness loses. So when Christ says we are the light of the world and we should let our light shine, he's saying even when we go into those dark areas, we should go there confident in him. Because it becomes another thing when we're confident in ourselves. But we should go confident in him that where we go, the darkness will vanish.
Thanks a lot. I want to give a personal testimony. This is not to shoot down our own institution because we love it with the rest of our lives, and I'm a presenter there too on Hope Channel. Amen. My children, these 18-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and what have you. I'm watching a sermon by Doug Batchelor the other day. I say, come and see what Mark Finley is doing. They are not there. What do I do, man? Hey, there's a discussion. Mommy and myself, we've got family matters on option. Come and see, watch us. We are on the air. They just pass through the living room, going to their rooms, holding their phones. They want to watch what is on their phone, but they cannot watch Mom and Dad. You're not getting what I'm saying. You're not getting what I'm saying. Now, there comes a movie, this Adventist soldier in the First World War or something, or a movie comes. And I don't know how they sense that something good is happening. They're already there. Hey, look at that, look at this, look at that. As soon as it finishes, as someone comes, they also disappear. So what are we saying? It will be a lie to any pastor or to any parent to think you can dismember this from our children. The message Tapiola is bringing is, if the devil is speaking through this, why can't God? Where is God when the devil is speaking? Are you getting the point? In other words, our institutions, media institutions, need to also adapt to certain audiences, other than the traditional audiences that we package our message to reach. It's a big challenge. Let me just say, where's that book, Tapio? Yes. This booklet here, the way it is written, It's written from a marketing perspective. In business, we call it marketing. In theology, we call it the theology of missions, where you contextualize, you identify the needs of the community, the culture of the community, their challenges. So, church growth or missions is what to business is marketing. These two use the same principles. Are you getting the point? In South Africa here, we have shootings that do take place in schools. You have sexual abuses that take place between kids and sometimes between young people and teachers. You know, things do happen. There's a lot of violence. Actually, in South Africa here, should a conflict arise in the schoolyard, a school can actually be burnt down by kids or by the community. And what have you? So, when you are now writing a book, you don't want to write about ice, snow, and rainbows. You are going to write about a very good book that does not relate to anyone's circumstances. A good book addresses the now and here and the challenges and the excite readership. Many people have written books that have never been read. They were only read by themselves. During the 2018 Gauteng for Christ project, when we made this book, Adventists tried to go into schools to see if they can minister. And the very first barrier they faced was religion is not accepted in schools. It became an immediate barrier, no religion in schools. They came back and said, Pastor Ngwaru, we don't know what to do. We can't penetrate these schools. Then I told them, no, it's very easy. Take this book, because in this book here they deal with sex among young people, drugs among young people, vandalism, and all the issues that affect South African schools that are in the newspaper, in the media, is what is here. So I said, no, just go and give the teacher, the head of the school, let them read. They go to the headmaster and said, no, nothing here. They give him to read. The headmaster says, I need 1,400 copies for my school. And each teacher in the curriculum of the school, we are going to be teaching this book until a whole quarter is finished. And yet inside here, this book addresses religion in a very subtle way. Are you getting the point? But it's made in a way that to the weak I become weak, so that I can reach many. Pastor Siokets is not here from this conference. What conference is this? Trans-Orange Conference. He's not here. He should have been here. Some Adventist teachers take this book to their high school, and the headmaster was like, no, don't introduce religion in my class. And then the teachers then understood, no, let's use the Pastor Ngwaru's strategy. Says, no, let's take it to the head teacher. Head teacher, go through this book if you think it is offensive, and because this is not religion. This book addresses the problems we are having here, the problems of grades, because problems of sex and fighting of students. That's what it is addressing. It's a solution. The headmaster reads it through. He says, Mr. So-and-so, the way you introduce things, you introduce it like it's a religion, it's like what, and so forth. This is a powerful tool. We need it here at our school. Right now, the transformation that is taking place at that school, it's for eternity to be able to tell. But like Tapiwa says, this book builds a bridge, but then you would need programs now, discover lessons and other things, to then take each child on an individual level and take them forward. It's not an end in itself. But one thing I can assure you with no doubt, if you have an intention to reach high schools in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, and win people by their millions, go and see. Just go and give the headmaster to read this and see what happens thereafter. So this is one of the tools that we have. It has its facilitator's guide. You've got the student's guide, then you've got the facilitator's guide. The facilitator's guide was written by Pastor Akwen and his wife, Family Life Ministries. So you can see from this, as I try to wind it down, is that in SID, personal ministries facilitates evangelism in all departments. In all departments. This is about youth ministry. We write something that inspires and provokes work in the youth department. We also wrote another one here. I'm sure you've seen it. Building friendships that strengthen families. This is the mother of drama books. Professionals are using this in their camp to simply give to a friend to say, can you go through this? It's a drama on family life and the challenges people, instead of saying, don't fight with your wife, don't do what, we have put that in a story form so that the reader can see and experience the pain. And there are areas where I want the reader to cry. We have caused the reader to, you actually, even you, when you read that section, you will cry. And when you see how bad it is to treat a wife or to treat a husband that way, or to be able to experience children losing a mother. Pastor Akwen, you want to say one or two words? If you have them, please. If you don't, it's okay. We wrote this for Family Life Department. Family Life directors are going house to house, sharing this and having small group, family winning family starting with the family, going through this the drama. And each time, I wish Pastor Mkwanans was here, when people go through the reality of how the family is being torn apart, there have always been tears from drunkards, from smokers, from drug addicts when they go through a story like this. This is one drama, Family Life. And Family Life Ministry also produced a facilitator's guide to take them through there. Now let me tell you something. You saw these tiny books here, Johnny's 10 Good Manners. You take the 10 commandments, instead of writing a book that says, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not what, and so forth, we put it in a secular way, but we are still dealing with the Bible. You will notice that in this book here, there is not even a word, it's like the book of Esther. You will not find a word that says God in this book. And yet, it takes people to God. Are we together? They went to another school, I'll not mention it by name, for private purposes. They took the youth department, Sister Chola knows, from Sunnyside SDA Church. They went to this school near them and said, we would want to have a children's program during a vacation here. And the headmaster says, no ways. No ways, you can't. Religion is not allowed by parents here. What do? They followed Pastor Ngwaru's idea. Give the books to the headmaster, let the headmaster read. The headmaster read this little book about the manners that are needed in class, that are needed in home, in the street, as a kid they relate with the world around and so forth. He says, but how did you introduce your thing, man? This is what my school needs. Can you run this program? From that program now, Sunnyside is about 6 children attending church and some parents attending church because we use the right key to unlock ministry. This, it's very cheap to print this. It may almost be 2 rand or 3 rand to print a thing like this. You don't need a fat big book to have impact. You simply want a book that excites and that touches where it itches. We have this other one here, Tabo Good Manners. One teacher read this and says, Pastor, this book is not going anywhere. My children have got a money problem and what have you. Read these small books. You read these books in 30 minutes, you are done, and yet they change the whole world and your ministry. And then from there, you must have seen this book here. Water, soap, and germs. Hygiene can be a problem that can devastate a community and people can die. We wrote this book when a time there is food security and people are getting sick from cold meat and what have you. They're told you must wash your hands, you must what and so forth. But most of the time, they are speaking to adults. I sat down and chatted with my friend here, Mrs. Chola, and said, I am going to write a book that addresses the problem South Africa is going through. Are you getting the point? But we are going to talk to kids. This book is doing wonders. It's doing wonders. It simply talks about when you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. Why do you wash your hands? Because of this. When you go out to town and you greet people, you come back, and before you touch your fruit, what do? I wash my hands. When this happens, when you've worked on your shoes and you are done cleaning your shoes, what do? I wash my hands. Why do you wash your hands? Because A, B, C, D, and whatever. Such simple things open opportunities for the gospel. And it's not an expensive thing. Many times when we say, division, the material, no, it's expensive. Hey, it's what? One area where we need to change as a church is we think big books get read. Nobody reads big books. Now, let me tell you one thing. Where's Brian? Come here, run here, Brian. I want to pray now. I'm left with 10 minutes. I want to pray. Run, Brian. Hey, you're wearing a very nice color. Brian is my counterpart. This is the color that we wear. Yeah, you copy it from me. Right. Now, Brian, the union director in South Africa, comes to a launch where we are launching this book and we are training pastors and whatever, and he takes his own copy. He drives 400 kilometers from here to go to his house. And the mistake that he did that night was to give someone a book, and it became a very big challenge. What was it?
I gave the book to my wife. I had just barely read the first chapter, and I was captivated. So I decided to show my wife and say, look at what Ngwaru does. And she read the book throughout the night, but my wife could not stop reading. She says,
to 1 a.m.
She read through the book, and I missed my wife.
So this guy tells me 1 a.m. the wife is still reading the book. 2 a.m. I said to Madam, what's wrong? Says, Pastor, the way you have written this book, when you finish one chapter, you want to know then how did the story... there is this matter, when you are writing a story, you want to bring in... The reason why people love to read novels is because people have an appetite to read conflict. They enjoy conflict. They enjoy suspense. You write it in such a way that you want them to know what then happened. So you create suspense, and sometimes you create surprise. Before they know what's happening, you surprise, you catch them off guard. This is why a book, this is a 200-page book. It's just like 5 pages to the people who read it. You give them now. The next minute, I go to the dry cleaner, my dry cleaner there. So I gave it to this lady, and she reads. Before a week, she says, Pastor, this is part 1, season 1. Where is season 2? I says, 200 pages. You says, I'm already done. Can I tell you what happened in chapter this? I said, okay, you can go ahead. She could remember all the actions in the book. Let me say, this is a new day. Africa, I don't know with other continents. Africa believes in stories. Africa can be reached much better. Africa, the average African does not have time for rational material. Where you are dealing with the logic and the facts, this and causes of this and what have you, they are not there. Are you getting the point? But when you say, hey, a baboon spoke to the rabbit, and the rabbit said, they'll read the whole story. Because they want to know what then happened to the rabbit and to the baboon. Are you getting Pastor, you want to say something? Come over, please. Are we together, church? Yes. We are simply saying we can revolutionize Africa by the language that Africa understands best.
Well, good afternoon. I know that as pastors we do a lot of counseling. Couples that one is cheating the other. One has abandoned the other.
And also the children are asking questions, where is my father and all that. I'm a psychotherapist by training. I see a number of couples. One way of helping me out is to give a couple, the madam a book, the man his book. They go through it. They begin to go through therapy before I even talk to them. This also, when you read it, and then you meet the needs of people. Non-Adventist and Adventist alike, whether religious or not religious. A couple has gone through infidelity. We give the husband, we give the wife. And the wife will wonder, how do I forgive this man? How do I build trust? Those are the things that are addressed here. Yes. And they will go through, how do I say I am sorry? Yeah. And why should I say I am sorry? And then she keeps on reminding me and asking the question, where did we meet? It is addressed by this book. So they read the book, and when we come, every one of them, they are ready to talk. And they are ready to heal and make decisions that are right. The book is just a good tool for a pastor.
Thank you. Lastly, from this book, let me say something about this book. I wrote this one here. These are Bible study question and answer, like Bible readings. You ask a question, the Bible answers. You ask a question like, what does the Bible say about state of the dead? You ask, you answer, you ask, you answer. This is designed to get here. Are you getting the point? But to start here, this is factual, and it doesn't seem to sell through, or the client does not complete it. Why? It is heavily factual. But here, we have addressed the issue of witchcraft here. How are families suffering under that? We have addressed the issue of state of the dead. So, state of the dead. In other words, we have taken topics that Africans, there's this friend of mine, Mashudu Ravengani. I'm forced to believe him. But I think he's right, but he can be wrong, but I think he's right. Mashudu Ravengani, he says that on the African continent, before you make people believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, start by dealing with their fear of death and misfortune. When you start dealing that, so that they gain confidence that the devil will not harm them, and that muti or drugs or charms will not heal them, then you are giving them a platform to believe in a God who gives them that kind of confidence. Are you getting it? So this is written it's family stories. What is happening in families? How does the state of the dead, how is it lived in a real life, in a real story? When you read that story, then you give someone there. Maybe the best I can say is, we have a tool that is written in a manner that it does witnessing without you. I picked a character, then you go through, the character goes from midnight to doubt, mistrust, to conflict over religion and devastating the family and whatever. But as the story progresses, you end up with a champion for Christ. That is how it is written. So thank you for taking your time to listen. Please, like Tapua says, drama and movie is not everything. It's one of those ideas. It does not replace our factual material, our old method. It simply adds to it so that we can enrich. Paul says, by all means possible, I do this to the Jews, I do this to the Romans, I do this to the weak, so that I may win some. This other little book, I will not even mention, you read it on your own. Invitation to Total Member Involvement. It may not give you the methods of TMI, but it gives you the philosophy of TMI. Once a member understands why TMI should be done, practice will come on its own. It will be there. So, Praise God. You see, we are giving you a USB or a flash disk. They are still finishing to put data on it. You'll be able to receive it tomorrow before you leave. Inside there, you'll discover here the importance of Christian drama as a ministry. Can we put our children to drama and witness through drama? One, they'll have fun to be with their friends, to act, and to whatever, and they would want to appear on stage. And wouldn't that give a new dimension of ministry to our young people? You look at that in our flash disk, and amen. God bless you all. Yes. We are due for our what do you call it? Our group picture. But let me just have one hand or two, and then we are gone. 1, 2, 3. Oh, let me finish with the director. 1, 2, 3, and let's end there. The rest, we are still around here. You can still ask me tomorrow. So let's have it short.
No, I just want to see if it is possible to give us the soft copy. Not the soft copy, but the authorization to translate it to French, so that we can use it over there.
If you go on the what you call it, copyright, you are given already, it says so, you are given authority to translate. The other authority you have over this book is you can change the settings, the names of cities, you can change the names of people, of characters. If you have Yusuf and Abraham in Egypt, use those names. Don't use South African names. So you can adapt it to suit your local condition. All these books give names that work in your area. Right?
I want to encourage everybody. I was supposed also to speak about it, and in the night,
there was that coincidence.
In the night, as I was praying, God said, call this young man to dramatize it. And he did it very well. Yeah. I will just encourage every pastor. You know, the tools are on internet. A lot of things are there. How to write a story, how to captivate because even in the preaching, you can dramatize a lot of our doctrines and captivate people. So please let us research, let us all know these things, and move the work in Africa. Amen.
It's a wider perspective, as you put it, of this contextualization.
Yes.
And I think this is wonderful.
Amen.
Yeah. I want to just talk about what my brother was speaking about, the media. It's not a question. Yeah, I'm just trying to say we want really to praise the Lord about what you are doing. And we, in ECD, after sharing this idea of, I've not gone to media school or whatever, but I think God has impressed upon me that media is also so powerful. That is why I was saying, my sister, can we just become innovative even for the programs that we have for children? Put these things in form of short films, and the children will be involved in that. We also the Adventist Muslim relations person, and media is bringing Muslims and Christians, especially the SDA, together. If you have something to share, you dramatize it, the Muslim comes, the Christian comes, and you discuss about that thing. So it is powerful to use media. It is the right way to go.
Very good. Yeah. Can you go home? The movie that you saw yesterday, it has white people, black people. That context may not work maybe in other areas. Reshoot the movie using your language vernacular. Let the actors speak in your language. Let them have their own. Let them be in their own cities and what. It's for Africa. We are just sharing. You can have it. You have the rights to what you think. God bless you all. Thank you.